Now that all the Escape from Violet Hold cards have been revealed, it is time to have our full card review for the entire set. For this video, we are going to be going over every single card, or at least every single package that is featured within this new set coming out July 7th. We're going to be starting with the neutral cards first, since they'll give us a better idea to go along with some of the incidental synergies that some of the class cards will have, and then we're going to go in alphabetical order from there. So let's begin. Starting with the first neutral legendary, which is going to be Zermatt's Prison, a 5-cost location with 3 durability. Choose a card to discard to summon a 5/5 taunt. Death Rattle, free Zermatt, who plays 1 each turn. And essentially, this is going to be a big 8/8 that will use whatever cards you put into the portal, making this actually kind of good support for Discord Warlock, since it does allow you to fill it up with really powerful cards and then get some advantage that way. Warlock seems like the best home for it. The other legendary here is going to be Warden Maiev, a 2-cost 1 attack 4 HP minion. After you play a minion, give it +3/+3 and make it dormant for 1 turn. Good for the aggro decks. It might make your decks a little bit slower, since it essentially makes it where you won't be able to attack with any minion you slam down for 2 turns instead of 1. But given her low cost and the fact that you will still be able to get advantage, you might be able to find some type of a dormant aggro demon hunter to pair this with. We also got Inspector Murloc Holmes, a 4-cost Murloc. Battlecry, investigate a card in the enemy hand. If they play a card with the same name, next turn, get 3 coins. I don't see a world where this sees play. And for the final legendary we have for the set, we have Togwaggle Smuggler King, a return of a classic Hearthstone character with a battle cry, shuffle both players' hands together, which isn't necessarily the exact same effect that he had in his initial version, but it is pretty close. We will be going over a card here in a second that actually combos pretty well with this. It's worth mentioning for this card, it will always give both players the same amount of cards they started with whenever the hands are shuffled together. But talking about the synergy with Togwaggle, we have Rat Burglar, a new version of Dirty Rat. At the end of your turn, steal all cards that enter your opponent's hand during your turn, which should allow you to mill your opponent's hand for a lot, since all of the cards in their hand are going to be counted as entering their hand on that turn. Sure, it does require 12 mana, but there will be ways to cheat both of these out. And speaking of classic cards getting new versions, Black Market Auctioneer is a 9-cost prepare card. Whenever you cast a spell, draw a card. Very similar to the Gadget Zan Auctioneers from yesteryear. However, at 9 mana, and even though it has the word prepare on it, I don't think this one will see too much play. Infernal is also a really cool epic card, which has the Death Rattle deal 3 damage to all other characters, also triggers in hand or deck. We'll be seeing some cards that will allow you to destroy cards in your deck. Getaway Hog Driver is a 5-cost Quillboar that Battlecry draw 2 cards. If they're both minions, gain charge. This will be good for a Shaman that we'll be going over later with their Rulebreaker. Captured Archmage is the last epic card with the Death Rattle. If you've had 4 other captured Archmages die this game, cast Fireball at a random enemy. It is worth mentioning Blizzard did say if you trigger all the Death Rattles at once, it will only really trigger 1 Fireball, even if there are 5 on the board, which makes this card pretty bad. Jailbird is a taunt when you prepare while holding this. Reduce this card's cost by the same amount. Good for any deck that can run a bunch of prepare cards. We got Disguise Executioner that is able to be played on either side, and it destroys a random adjacent minion. So if you play it correctly, you'll be always able to target whatever minion that you want to destroy the most. And for 3 mana with that amount of stats, it's pretty good if your opponent has some untargetable bonuses that you need to get rid of. We also have Frantic Forger, a 2-cost battle cry, get a random playable spell. It is temporary, great for Quest Warlock. Sewer Imp, which is a 6-cost demon, taunt Death Rattle, deal 2 damage to all enemies. Good if it's randomly generated, not probably a card that you're going to want to hard run given its mana cost. Activated Golem, a 4-cost at the end of your turn, gain Reborn. This is going to be a really sticky minion that a lot of aggro decks are probably going to want to use. Defias Smuggler, a prepare battlecry, give a friendly minion +2 attack and rush. Good for any type of egg deck. Violet Punisher, Battlecry, choose an enemy minion, steal its bonus effects, and gain +1/+1 for each stolen. There aren't too many bonus effects currently for this to see much play. We have Pickpocket, Battlecry. If your deck has 25 or more cards, draw a card. There are two classes that will get above the normal 30 card pool that this will perfectly fit in. We also got Concealing Confection, which is a one cost mech that has the death rattle of get a random weapon. This could always be good in any aggro since it does give you some type of advantage. We have Gullible Guard, a one cost death rattle minion that allows you to break the rules and say sorry this game. Starting with DK's Rulebreaker, Blood Doctor Felina, a 5 cost undead battlecry, get a second hero power that costs corpse, and this hero power is going to give a minion +3 attack, which by itself isn't really the greatest card in the world because you don't get this ability right at the start of the game like a lot of the other rule breakers. However, it is going to be pretty good in Quest DK. The other legendary we got for DK is going to be the Living Plague, a 7 cost 7/7 undead. Charge instead of damaging heroes, this shovels that many blights into their deck that deal 2 damage when drawn. Then the blights are going to be this. And we do have another card that gives a Blight's Disguised Doctor that can be played on either side. The Death Rattle that shuffles 4 into your deck that deal 2 when drawn. I could easily see this card seeing play even in just aggro since it is a 1 mana 5/1, which isn't the easiest to deal with on turn 1. Overall, between these two cards, I think you might be able to do something with Manifest Memoriam and some other revivals to make a lot of light speed shuffled into your opponent's deck, making it probably the better of the two legendaries. The other package that we have for DK is going to be stuff using Frail Ghouls. Tower of Gruul is a 4 cost undead. After this minion takes damage, summon 2 1/1 Frail Ghouls. It's worth mentioning we have seen a few other cards very similar to this printed in the past that cost around the same that didn't really see any play outside of random generation. I think this one will fit in that category too. We also have Corpse Cannon, which is a 2 cost 2 Unholy Rune weapon that after your hero attacks summons a 1/1 Feral Ghoul. This is going to be outclassed by the other 2 cost weapon currently in DK. We got Bone Flurry, which is a 2 cost deal 3 damage split among on enemies. If a friendly minion died this turn, deal 3 more. I don't think this one will see too much play. It's just a little bit too slow and a little bit hard to scale up. We got Emergency Surgery here, which is a 5 cost, 1 Unholy, 1 Blood Rune. Use an enemy minion, summon 3/1 undeads with lifesteal that attack into it. Good for survivability, but at 5 mana, I don't know if I'd want to use it. Got Drink Blood here that deals 3 damage to a minion. Refresh your hero power. Pretty good for maybe the quest DK list, as mentioned before. Overall, a little bit of additional early game survivability, which is always a pretty cool thing. We also got Blood Clone, which is a 2 Blood Rune shadow spell that discovers a 5 cost minion. Spend 5 corpses to summon a copy of it. I really wish this only had 1 Blood Rune requirement, but it has 2, so I don't think this one will see too much play. We also got Sawbones, which is probably the most interesting DK card of the entire set, which has Prepare, Battlecry, destroy all your other minions, draw a card, and refresh a mana crystal for each destroyed, which means for 0 mana, you can trigger a board full of death rattles, which is awesome, while also making it where you can draw a bunch of cards and then slam down even more minions to make use of that additional mana. I think this card will see a lot of play. Now for Demon Hunter, starting off with the Rule Breaker, Hydra Sin Seeker, a 4 cost lifesteal minion with Battlecry. Send your deck into the void at the start of your turn to get 2 cards from the void. Basically, this makes it where you draw 2 cards instead of 1. You do have to worry about fatigue, which is a little bit bad. And if you wonder why Demon Hunter all of a sudden is getting a bunch of void support cards, it's because Demon Hunter got a new spec added into World of Warcraft that is centered around the void. So it made sense that Devour would eventually make its way into Hearthstone. To support this card, though, we also do have Cosmic Manifestations, which is a 2 cost shadow spell that deals 2 damage, shuffles a random Demon Hunter spell into your deck. Outcast, do it again. This will the anti-fatigue card for the previous seen card. The other package that we're going to be seeing here is going to be even more Devouring Souls, which is going to be centered around Chathesh Soul Parasite, a 6 card prepare rush minion after you summon a demon and gain its stats with 1/1 stats. This by itself doesn't sound that great. However, the cards that support this legendary are going to be the Void Souls, a 1-cost shadow spell that summons a random 1-cost demon and it improves your future Void Souls. And this wouldn't be that good by itself. However, there are going to be other cards that will give you Void Souls, such as Void Scale, which is a 3-cost taunt with Death Rattle, where you get one. We also have Void Blast, that is a removal tool while also giving you a type of Void Soul. And finally, we have Stardust Scythe as a way to get a soul that way. Honestly speaking, while you can probably use the Rulebreaker for Demon Hunter in this list, I really do think I prefer this idea over the Rulebreaker just because it feels like a more concise deck that will probably end up getting additional support in a later set, since Void is now a key concept to Demon Hunter. Now with Druid, we're starting with their attack package. Staff of Trickery, a 4-cost after your hero attacks, discover a Druid card, reduce its cost by your hero's attack. This is going to be a pretty good card since we do have cards like Spider Rider that makes you draw a card whenever your hero attacks. We also got Widow's Bite, which gives your hero +1 attack this turn and then gain 1 armor, but also adds a Feast, which gives your hero +2 attack, and then finally a Banquet that gives +4 attack and 4 armor, making the attack gain pretty potent since you can probably discount any card down to 0. It doesn't matter what cost. We also got Spiderline, which gives your hero +1 attack on your turn for 1 mana, which is completely awesome. And finally, a 0 mana card that gives your hero either +2 attack this turn, or you get a random Druid card, where a lot of the time you're probably going to choose that attack as either removal or a way to get more advantage off of the weapon. Either way, I think this package is quite strong. Now for Druid's Rulebreaker, Chef Nezrak, a 3-cost start of game. If your deck only has cards that cost 3 or less, set your mana to 10 after 5 turns. Oh no, they actually did it. I was really expecting an attack gain Rulebreaker for Druid because of the other cards in the set, and it is a little bit weird to mention that you can't use her in combination with her staff. But overall, I think this is a card that, while right now has limited amount of potential, is always going to be something that has the potential to be broken really easily. If we get more cards that generate additional higher cost cards, such as Azara's Triumph, I think a card like this has a home to exist in. Or if we get a bunch more AoE potential tools that you could use in combination with this that are low mana. Overall, right now, it's probably middle of the pack, but in the future, it could be pretty good. Now for Hunters, starting with their Rulebreaker, King of the Underbelly, a 6-cost beast. While building your deck, pick 3 Contraband Beasts. Battlecry, discover 1, it costs 3 less. Some key cards that you can see in Standard are going to be any of the Wild Gods from the other classes. Great Draco Rex is probably pretty good as a additional target, but the most interesting one, in my opinion, is going to be Bone Shield Stegodon. This, in combination with the card that we'll be going over here in a second, will allow you to easily OTK your opponent by slamming this down, and a way to easily trigger it. This card is going to be Seward Swimmer, a 5-cost prepared Battlecry trigger, a friendly minion's Death Rattle Beast, making it where you can easily discount this down to 0. And since Stegodon normally costs 6, that means he'll cost 3. Then you can slam down a Dios, which will trigger the Stegodon Death Rattle 4 times instead of just twice, making it where you can easily OTK your opponent using only a few cards. There is another really cool legendary for Hunter, though, which is Rat Catcher, a 3-cost mech Battlecry. Copy all spells in your deck. Death Rattle, draw 1. This is going to be good for Confront, but it is also going to be good for cards like Arcane Tripwire, a 3-cost arcane spell that deals 5 damage split among all enemies. Shuffle 2 spells into your deck that do it again when drawn. So you're essentially hoping to slam both of these down before you slam down Ratcatcher. So you have a bajillion cards in your deck that will do a bunch of damage when drawn. We also have Beast Tripwire, which is a 4-cost summon a random 5-cost beast that shuffles 2 spells into your deck that do it again when drawn. For 4 mana, it might be a little bit expensive, but I could maybe see a world where this sees play. We have a weapon that helps out this package, Smuggled Shuffle, which is a 1-cost weapon with the Death Rattle. Draw a spell that didn't start in your deck, which is pretty good for that type of list. Some other random cards that Hunter got access to are going to be Guard Dog, a 2-mana Death Rattle minion with summon a random 1-cost Death Rattle minion with 3 attack, 1 HP, and Beast. Probably just good for any type of face hunter. We got Underbelly Network, which summons a 2/1 rat with Death Rattle, draw a card. Good for, again, face hunter. And finally, we got Black Market Overseer, which is a 1-cost, 1 attack, 3 HP. Whenever you play a Death Rattle minion, give it Rush, which is pretty good, even in the Stegodon OTK list that I was talking about, since it will allow you to trigger your Death Rattles an additional time too. Now for Mage, starting with their Rulebreaker, Jailhouse Mana Storm, a 5-cost battle cry. After you cast a spell this game, summon a random minion of the same cost. This is an excellent card, while I do think it is quite boring when it comes to Rulebreakers. Sure, you are getting a minion every time you cast a spell, and that could give you a lot of advantage, but there could have been a lot of other cool avenues Blizzard could have taken instead of going this route. It's also worth mentioning, it is weird that they went with Millhouse instead of Millie, who was actually a resident of the Violet Hold in World of Warcraft. Now, for some of the support cards that go along with this, we have a Breakout Architect, a battlecry. Discover a spell that costs 5 or more. It casts twice when played. We have Bootleg Alchemist, a battlecry minion. Choose a card in your hand, transform it into a spell that costs 5 or more, keeps the original cost. And finally, we have Spire Security. Battlecry, reveal a spell in your deck. If it costs 5 or more, deal 5 damage split among all enemies. The first 2 cards I think we'll see a lot of play. It is a little bit awkward to use because all of this package do cost 5. But if maybe we see a buff patch where they lower some of the costs, I think this will be quite playable. The cards that I'm more excited for is the Incidental Synergy for Secrets, Trixie Improviser, a prepare card with Battlecry. If you cast a spell this turn, cast a random Mage Secret, which is okay. It's a little bit of a condition on some of the older ideas that we've seen in Mage. If it got additional support, then this would be pretty good. The other legendary we got here is the Skeleton Key, a 1-cost arcane spell that discovers a spell or refresh your options 20% to take 5 damage each refresh. This in combination with Spellbinder's Brilliance will allow you to get 2 to 3 6/6 on turn 1, which will be very frustrating to play against, but most of the time, this is probably just a card that you're going to want to randomly generate. We also got Code Violet, a 7-cost arcane spell with Prepare, Summon, and 8-cost minion. If you cast 3 other spells this turn, do it again. For 7 mana, this won't see play, but if you can prepare it or randomly discover it, it is pretty potent that way. And for our OTK potential tool, we have Counterban Wands, a 2-cost get 3 arcane missiles. There is a combo that you can do with this in combination with 2 Geomancers and the spell that reduces cards that didn't start in your deck by 1, making it where you can do 30 damage in a single turn for like 0 mana, which is absolutely insane. And finally, here we have Cold Snap, which freezes a random, which allows you to freeze an enemy and get a frost spell for 1 mana. For Paladin, we see the return of Racist Paladin, aka Pure Paladin, with Valma Looming Death, a 9-cost, 5 attack, 5 HP Battlecry minion. Destroy all non-Paladin minions. This is going to be bad for mirror matches, but Mistress did just see a lot of play at 9 mana, so I could see a world where this sees play. We also have Judgment here, which is a weird card. A 6 mana prepare, choose a friendly minion, set all minion stats equal to that minions. I've already seen people point out you can get infinite attack on all of your minions on the board, making the infinite attack Paladin list probably a little bit stronger than they did previously. and probably will make this card see some play. At 6 mana, it might be a little bit iffy, but honestly speaking, I think you can pull this combo on early as turn 4 or 5, which makes this quite potent. We also are going to have a Dalaran champion, find shield, taunt whenever this gains stats, gain an additional +1/+1 whenever it is. We don't really have too many hand buff or deck buff cards for Paladin right now, but honestly speaking, even at just 4 mana, there are some that you can make use of something like this, since it does get pretty big pretty quickly. We also have Vigilant Sentry, a 3 cost minion with your deck has no neutral cards. Summon 2 Vigilant Sentries, which they all have taunt, and if you find ways to buff them up, it makes a pretty big sticky wall for 3 mana. Paladin's Rulebreaker is going to be Commander Beatrix, a 5 cost taunt. While you're building your deck, pick a 2 cost minion. 10 copies join your deck. This will be great in the combination with that one neutral card that allows you to draw if your deck is 25 cards or more. But if we look at the actual card pool of what this can generate, there are some big memes such as Captured Archmage to use it in. However, Brash Battlemaster is probably one of the best targets that you can use this combination with, just as a way to scale up the attack on your Silverhand recruits really, really quickly. And there will be additional support for something like this, such as Reinforcement Aura, a 3 cost holy spell that at the end of your turn, summon a minion from your deck that costs 2 or less. This lasts 3 turns, along with Scarlet Recruiter, Battlecry, summon 2 minions from your deck that cost 2 or less. Give them Rush. This one, it costs a little bit too much, but I do think that Reinforcement Aura will probably end up seeing play. It's also worth mentioning you could theoretically make your target Lore Walker Cho, which would be really funny, but again, there are a lot of possibilities for this rule breaker. Now for Priest's Rulebreaker, Azula Soul Severer, a 7 cost undead. Your deck is 20 cards, plus 20 copied from your enemy. Battlecry, draw until your hand is full. Now hear me out on this card. The artwork on it is beautiful. Besides that though, you probably can actually make a pretty good control engine using only 20 cards and maybe a little bit of an imbue engine to get even more resources, just in case the 20 that you don't copy from your opponent do something. Overall, I don't think this one is the strongest rule breaker in the set, but I do think it has at least a bit of potential, especially because of its support, such as Unshackled Soul. If you played a copy of an opponent's card while holding this, this costs 1. Great support for Quest Priest, which can easily run 20 cards to complete it. We also have Enthralled Shade, a 3 cost undead. Death Rattle, reduce the cost of cards in your hand that were copied from your opponent by 1. Honestly, probably doesn't see play. It's the weakest of this package. We got Minesweeper, a 2 cost Battlecry. If you played a copy of a card from your opponent while holding this, deal 2 damage to all enemy minions. This is probably pretty good to see play, even if you run a small package. For other quest support, we got Holy Embrace, which is a 2 cost restore 4 health. Get a Dark Embrace that deals 4 damage. This is a holy spell, and then the other one is a shadow spell, which means 1 card will be 1/4 of your quest, which is pretty good. We also have Hold Them Off, which is a 5 cost prepare. Give a minion +5/+5 and a lifesteal holy spell. That theoretically, if you use this in combination with Tyrande, that doubles any spell that you use. And you get 2 of these, you can make any minion gain +20/+20, which might be able to OTK your opponent pretty quickly. The other priest legendary is going to be Krav the Broken, a 6 cost 6/6. Death Rattle, get 3 1/1 copies of random legendary minions. They cost 1. If you can randomly generate this off of your imbue hero power, it's good. If you're going to try to hard run this card, I don't see this one seeing too much play. It's just too random. If you could discover, maybe it would, but it is what it is in this current form. However, Soothsayer here is a much better card. A 7 cost prepared, taunt, death rattle, restore 6 health to your hero, summon a random 6 cost minion. This is great just because it allows you to heal while also putting up a wall. And hopefully that 6 cost could theoretically be another wall that gets put up. And finally here we have Undeath Sentence, a 1 cost shadow spell that triggers the death rattle of a random friendly minion that died this game. My heart of hearts says this is great for quests Priest. However, I know exactly where this is going to fit, which is just going to be Egg Priest. While I am sick of Egg and it has overstayed its welcome, I do think this card is quite playable and one of the most playable cards for Priest the entire set. Now for Rogue, starting with the coin package, aka the Rulebreaker package, Anna Lotus Kingpin, a revisit from Mean Streets of Gadrazan, a 6 cost Valkyrie minion, pick an upgraded counterfeit to replace your coins this game, get 2. And you always go second. It is worth mentioning if both players are playing this card, it will just randomly choose someone to go second. The 3 counterfeit coins are going to be Cabal coin. That gives you +1 mana this turn. Only get a random 1 cost Kazakis potion. We got Grimy coin, which gives you 1 mana and deals 2 damage to a random enemy minion. And finally, you have Jade Coin, which is probably the most exciting out of the bunch. That gives you 1 mana and then summons a Jade Golem. So if you're a fan of Jades, they are back in Standard, and you don't have to look any further than this. It is worth mentioning for this package in particular, there is another legendary that helps it out in the form of Slice and Dice, a 5 cost. Replay all other cards played this turn. Target enemy if possible in your turn. For a card like this, you could easily use a bajillion coins to summon an entire wide board of Jades or just gain a bunch of potions for a later on turn. However, one of the more interesting combos you can do with something like this is using Morchi in combination with Chrono Daggers. This will allow you to then slam down some Geomancers for 0 mana and do a bunch of damage because each of your daggers will do 5 damage a pop, and there's 3 of them times a bunch. Overall, there's going to be some type of Miracle Rogue deck centered around this. Beware. We also have a Black Paws Whip, 3 mana, 3 attack, 2 durability weapon, costs 1 less for each coin you're holding. Death Rattle, draw a card. It's really good for the coin deck. We also have Lotus Bookie, which has the Death Rattle, get a coin, which is good for that. Also, the other package for Rogue is going to be a 2 cost package. The first one is going to be Jade Guardians. Get 2 random 8 cost minions. They cost 1 less for each card you played that costs 2 mana this game. Then we're going to have Lotus Troublemaker, a 3 cost battlecry. Shoot 1 random enemy for 2 damage. Play cards for 2 mana while holding this to shoot more. We got Nab, which deals 3 damage to a minion. If it dies, shuffle a copy of it into your deck. That costs 2. And finally, Thief's Tool, which gives you 2 random 4-cost spells. That makes it cost 2. Overall, this package is kind of interesting. I think Nab might be cool for some like weird wombo combo techniques where you want to get one of your own minions really low and then shuffle a 2-cost copy back into your deck. Or maybe you want to do something with Ren Feral, since she does have 3 HP, and you could just get a 2 cost and block out your opponent even further. Now, for one of the rule breakers I'm most excited for, which is Mugsy. Start of game, if your deck has no other minions, get Mug's hero power. If it has no spells, get Z's. For Mugs, your first minion each turn costs 2 less, and for Z, every 5th minion you play triggers it Battle Cry twice. It is going to be a little bit of an interesting condition to fulfill. I know Blizzard did say in Wild you theoretically could get both combined, which is like a cool way to do it. But in Standard right now, I think the no spell version is going to be a lot better given some of the other support we'll be going over here in a second. The other legendary for Shaman is going to be Tiny Pal, which is a battle cry. Choose your elemental ammunition after your hero attacks. Choose another, and then you'll have a freeze 2 other random enemies. Deal 1 damage to all enemies. Summon a 3 cost minion. Give it taunt, or get a random battle cry minion that costs 2 less. This is probably the most disappointing card of Shaman this set. However, for the all spell package, we got Storm Fury, a 7 cost nature spell. Lifesteal, deal 2 damage to all enemy minions. Cast 3 spells to turn into a minion. And the minion is going to be a 7 cost elemental with all the essential same stats. But it turns from a spell into a minion, which is actually pretty cool. And I really wish we will revisit this in the future. Also got low security wing, a 1 cost 3 durability, get a random shaman minion. It's locked in your hand until you play another card, which means on turn 1, this will be pretty good to slam down. But then you can just play down whatever other one drop on turn 2, hopefully. I wish this did have Battle Cry, but I think that might make it a bit too strong. We got Hex Marshal, a Battle Cry, get a random spell that costs 5 or more. If your deck started with no spells, it costs 5 less. This is probably one of the weaker all minion package cards. We got Frost Shatter, a 5 cost frost spell. Freeze an enemy, draw 2 cards, cast 3 spells to turn into a minion, and then it's going to be a 5 cost elemental. Very similar to the 7 cost spell that we saw earlier. Probably pretty good. Both of these cards has a lot of synergy with a lot of the other stuff that you can actually do, and I do really like this design space. We got Disguised Detective, a 1 cost can played on either side. Overload that player for 2. This is good both defensively and offensively. On turn 1, it is just like 4/3. That's going to be annoying to remove. But for it into the late game, you can slam it down onto your opponent's board to hopefully make them not be able to use a board clear on your wide board. We also have Hijacked Security Bot, a 4 cost prepared minion. Darkrai, give your other minions +1/+1. Because this has prepared, you can easily stall out using it until you have a wide board to give a bunch of minions to finish off your opponent. Might be worse than Flight Maneuvers, but still pretty good in Shaman. We got Molten Gold, a 3 cost fire spell that deals 4 damage, cast 3 spells, turn into a minion, and this is just going to be a 3 cost elemental. It is worth mentioning that all of the spells that turn into minions are references to the Muggsy fight in WoW, which is really cool and the reason why I'm really excited for something like this. Finally, one of the most important cards for Shaman, Galio Goon, a 1 cost elemental. After you play a Battlecry minion, give it +1/+1. This is just going to be absolutely insane. There's a lot of really powerful, cheap Battlecry minions in Standard right now. Now, for Warlocks, starting off with their 10 cost demon with Prepare, Death Rattle, summon a random demon from your deck, and give it Death Rattle, summon Morag, which is the name of this card. For 10 mana, I do not see a world where this sees play. This is really just a worse Nimsy. And Nimsy never ended up getting any additional support while she was in rotation. And I honestly can't see a world where Blizzard gives Warlock more big demons because it does seem like a theme that they refuse to support a lot in this class, while Demon Hunter gets all of the big demons that you could ever ask for. Overall, if this does see play, it will be after a class set where there are more demon cards. The other cards for the demon package are going to be Imp Gang Stooge, a taunt, Death Rattle, put a 9/9 demon with Life Steal and Taunt on the bottom of your deck, along with Demonic Confinement, which is a 2 cost, make a minion go dormant for 2 turns. If it's a friendly demon, give it +3/+3 instead. Basically, a offensive version of Red Card for 1 more mana, which will probably make it end up seeing play. And finally, for this package, we have Annihilation, which is a 9 cost, destroy all minions, summon any demons in the bottom 3 cards of your deck. If this card had prepared, it might be playable, but because it doesn't, it is pretty bad. The really cool legendary, however, for Warlock is going to be their Rulebreaker, probably the best Rulebreaker of the entire set. Godfrey the Betrayer, a 4 cost, start of game, overdrawn cards, return your hand whenever you have space. They cost 1 less. This is just an absolutely insane card, especially for something like even Reform, where you don't have to worry about overdrawing your cards anymore, and you can just have an entire hand full. So you can make full advantage out of things like Fire of Solitude, a 5 cost location with 2 durability, summon a demon with That's equal to your hand size. It attacks a random enemy minion. This is going to be pretty good for that deck. We also got Page Cranium, a 3 cost undead with taunt, battlecry, gain +1 health for each other card in your hand, which is awesome. We also have Unseen Atlas, a 10 cost draw 3 cards, costs 1 less for each card in your hand. And because you're not going to be worried about overdrawing, this is a pretty good draw card. For the random other cards that we got for Warlock, we got Shadow Rounds, a 2 cost deal 2 damage to an enemy minion. If it dies, cast this on another random enemy minion. Just a worst of file. There's nothing else to say about this. Now for Warriors, starting with their Rulebreaker, Chainbreaker Hogger is a 8 cost start of game. Duplicate all other legendaries in your deck. The first thought that comes to mind with a card like this is Logosh. You can actually get 6 fighters instead of the normal 3, which makes your deck a little bit more consistent that way. However, the next card that we'll be going over here, which is Warped 2, a 4 cost beast. Charge if 3 friendly characters take damage on one of your turns. Summon this from hand or deck. This will allow you to get 6 damage on the board really quickly, as long as you have a wide board early enough. That can easily be triggered through something like Searing Fissure that does 1 damage to all minions. It's also worth mentioning that Hogger has some synergy with some of the other cards in Warrior the set, such as Scramble for Gear. The 1 cost, gain 2 armor, shuffle 5 gear spells into your deck that give you +2 armor when drawn, along with Crowd Control, which is a 3 cost spell that deals 2 damage to all minions. If your deck has 25 or more cards in it, deal 2 more. And finally, Scrappy Defender, which is a 4 cost taunt, has +5 attack if your deck has 25 or more cards. And because Hogger will allow you to get to higher card pools within your deck, all these cards are probably quite playable, Defender being the worst of the bunch. There is other control tools that are pretty good for certain matchups, such as Disguised Watchman, that can be played on either side and has the Battlecry deal 1 damage to all other friendly minions twice. This played on your opponent's board against Paladin is going to be absolutely devastating, getting rid of all of their Defiant Shields. However, it does also play in the other package that Warrior is getting this set, which is going to be Enrage. Rider is a 3 cost minion that after a friendly minion survives damage, it gets +1 attack, along with Ball and Chain that has the Death Rattle that gives your damage minions +1/+2, making them a little bit wider through just being able to deal 1 damage to each individual one. I'm really curious of where Destructive Blaze might fall into a deck like this, since that is a card that I really did enjoy. All right, so those were all the cards for Escape the Violet Hold. Let me know down below what decks that you're most excited to try out. There are actually at least one idea for each individual class that I'm really excited to try. But before we end the video, special thanks to our channel members of Daniel Nascimento and Ruben. If you want to help out the channel a little bit more, you can always join one of the 3 membership tiers. If you can't afford to do that, you can always leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification, so the little hype button. Check out the Twitch channel. They all help me out equally. But until next time, bye-bye.